Hi guys, it's Miss Judy. I'm here with our family tree for KFOT week 7. So we've been talking about people in the Old Testament. Abraham and Sarah had a promise that they would have a big family, lots of descendants. And then they had their son Isaac. Isaac had twin sons named Esau and Jacob. Jacob had at least 13 children, and one of his sons was named Joseph, and that's who we've been talking about for the last couple weeks. So Joseph, his older brothers were very jealous of him, and they were angry when Joseph shared that he had some dreams that one day his brothers would bow down to him. And so his jealous, angry brothers sold Joseph to be a slave in Egypt. Last week, we learned about that in Egypt, Joseph had a lot of things happen to him, but eventually he ended up in charge of almost everything during a time when there was a famine. A famine is a time when there's not enough food for everybody. But Joseph had planned ahead and saved enough food that people weren't going hungry. Well, the famine was spreading to other lands. And so where Jacob and his other sons lived was starting to experience the famine, and they didn't have enough food. But they heard that Egypt had enough food, and so Jacob sent his oldest sons to travel to Egypt and buy some food. Now, Joseph had a baby brother, a younger brother, who hadn't been part of the jealous, angry brothers. And Jacob kept Benjamin, the baby brother, at home and did not send Benjamin with the oldest brothers to go buy food in Egypt. So the oldest brothers, they get to Egypt, and they see Joseph, but they don't recognize him. Joseph recognizes them, but they don't recognize Joseph because he looks like an Egyptian and he sounds like an Egyptian, and he's the guy who's in charge. And Joseph's brothers, they bow down to him just like in Joseph's dream. So Joseph recognizes his brothers and he decides to kind of test them. And he accuses them of being spies, and he gets them all rattled and confused. And he says, "You can prove to me that you're not spies. I'm going to keep one of you in prison, and the rest of you can take some food home, and then bring back your youngest brother. If it's true that you have this family back where you live, you'll bring your younger brother to me, and then I'll let out your other brother from prison." And so the brothers go back to Jacob and all their family with food, and they say, "We have to go back with Benjamin." And Jacob is scared of that. He doesn't want to send Benjamin. It seems very dangerous. Well, eventually they start to run out of the food that they bought in Egypt. And so they have to go back, and they take Benjamin with. And when they get to Egypt, they see Joseph again. And again, they don't recognize him. And so Joseph has another test for them. And he sends them on their way with food. And he has his special silver cup tucked into Benjamin's bag. And then after they're on their way to go back to their home, Joseph sends his servant to look through their bags. And they find the silver cup. And Benjamin is accused of stealing it. So they all go back to see Joseph. And when they get there, his brothers, now these are the same brothers who very quickly just sold him into slavery. But this time, instead of being willing to leave Benjamin behind, because Joseph says, well, you stole my things, so you're my slave now. But instead of just leaving Benjamin behind, the brothers offer to take Benjamin's place. So Joseph can see that his brothers have changed, and he reveals that he's Joseph, and they're so shocked. And Joseph forgives them, and he invites them all to come live in Egypt where there's enough food. So they go back to Jacob. They tell him the wonderful news that Joseph is still alive, and all of Jacob's family, all of Joseph's family, they all come back to live in Egypt. Now remember, Jacob is called Jacob, but he's also called Israel, and his sons are the tribes of Israel. So now this huge family that started with Abraham and Sarah, this huge family moves to Egypt, the tribes of Israel, the Israelites. And a lot more happens to the Israelites while they're in Egypt, but we will talk about that next summer. Next week we're going to keep talking about the Old Testament, but this story will pick up next summer. So now some of your church family has something to share with you.
Hi, church family. The Spitzers, Miss Jean, and Mr. Bob have made a slideshow to share with you. It shows birds that visit their home. Besides watching the birds in their backyard, the Spitzers travel all over the United States and the world to go bird watching. They have seen more than 2,000 kinds of birds. This photo shows Miss Jean and Mr. Bob with all their gear, including binoculars and cameras, ready to go bird watching. If you look at the map, the Spitzers live very close to St. Barnabas, diagonally across the street. This is the backyard of the Spitzer townhome, where they see about 45 different bird species every year, and here are some photos. Mr. and Mrs. Wood Duck in the pond. This is an American robin. This is a red-tailed hawk. Do you see the circle? That's a mallard duck nest near the entry of the townhome. Here is a close-up of a mama duck on the nest. These are her 11 eggs. Here is a photo of the mallard mom and babies making the journey to the pond. And here they are in the pond. This is a red-bellied woodpecker. This is a female ruby-throated hummingbird. Here is a European starling. This is a house finch. Next is a Baltimore oriole. This is a red-tailed hawk on top of the cross at St. Barnabas. This was the day before that part of the building needed to be torn down. Here are Miss Jean and Mr. Bob on a bird-watching trip to Australia.
Isn't it nice to hear from some of our church family? Thank you to Miss Jean and Mr. Bob for sharing with us all those wonderful pictures of birds that they see in their backyard. And thank you to my daughter Joni for doing the voiceover for that slideshow. I've added a leaf on our tree for Mr. Bob and Miss Jean. It's nice to hear from our church family, and we all want you to remember that you are an important part of our church family. Do you like to look for birds? Do you have any bird feeders? Have you seen any of the same birds that were in the slideshow around your house? Or when you've been on a hike? Share in the comments either here or on Facebook something about birds, a bird that you've seen, or about taking care of a bird feeder or a bird bath in your yard. But share with us something about birds. Also, in the description of this video is a link to an animation about this part of Joseph's story. So watch the animation if you'd like to, and don't forget to comment about birds. Take care.